Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. I'd like to welcome Dr. Marwa Assar to our seminar series here at ICB Wayland, and thank her so much for helping us to continue to navigate this kind of interesting area around mental health. And her topic today is going to be about shukr and the power in mental health, inshallah. But she has a really interesting background, and Dr. Assar, we really look forward to hearing from you. She is a psychologist and a psycho-spiritual teacher. She has an extensive background in psychology and Islam, and she's worked, to empower others on spiritual, mental, and an emotional level, and has spent over a decade extensive exploring and merging traditional Islamic teachings with psychology to help create and cultivate greater psychological health, navigate, a human experience in a beautiful manner, and tackle the spiritual and psychological barriers that come, with living today, as well as fulfilling our role with Allah and, between ourselves. So in addition to her studies, I see that Dr. Marwa has published a really good book, which is interesting, and she's worked in a lot of diverse settings: inpatient substance abuse, schools, private practice, and she serves currently at the Islamic Center of NYU. And she's also the founder of the Home Institute, which is the Heart Over Mind and Ego. Nice name, to psycho-spiritual wellness. So I think we're going to hear about all of this, inshallah, from you, Dr. Marwa. We look forward to, inshallah, what you're going to impart to us, and jazakallah khair.
Bismillahi walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and peace be upon you. And thank you, brother, for the welcome, and really happy to be here with all of you and to have the opportunity to discuss with you such an important topic that is so necessary for all of our hearts. I mean, I cannot begin to tell you how important it is that we work so hard, especially in our times, to cultivate grateful hearts, to cultivate hearts that contain shukr. It's so important. And I know, as I'm saying this, we're like, yeah, shukr is so important. We know this, right? But there's a difference between knowing something mentally and living it in the heart, where you allow those truths to affect your behaviors and your actions. And this is really the focus of my work and my method, the Heart Over Mind and Ego method, as the brother mentioned. That's what the Home Institute is named after. It's this method, and it's the method that I discuss extensively in my book, The Compass Home. But this method is centered around really prioritizing the heart and caring for the heart and leading from the heart, not leading from the nafs, not leading from this lower self or this place of ego, and not even leading from our mind, where we're just happy having information, but that information doesn't translate into knowledge, and the heart doesn't have an experience with that information. So through the Home method, I teach that shukr is one of the things that really awakens the heart and awakens the heart's presence and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but awakens the heart to what Allah has placed in front of our lives. But it also, shukr is one of the practices that really empowers us on not only on a spiritual level, but on a mental and emotional level. So first, what is shukr? Shukr, we say, is gratitude. We often translate it as just gratitude, but it's so much more than that. Shukr is deep appreciation. It is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has named himself as Shakur, right? As Shakur, the appreciative, the thankful. It's amazing, right? When we think about this, like, Allah is appreciative of us. Yes, he is. He's appreciative of anything that we do. This is one of his attributes that we also should learn to embody. So it's not just, oh, I'm grateful. Appreciation is so different than gratitude. It's so much deeper. It's so much more powerful. Appreciation is you not taking things for granted. It's you being, awakened to the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already put in your life. Not just the blessings that the new blessings that he put into your life. Appreciation is you cultivate a heart that doesn't miss the beauty in front of you and the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in front of you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a shakur. So he's the one who expresses great appreciation. This is, Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he describes ash-shakur as this, the one who expresses appreciation by rewarding bounteously, without measure, basically. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that he is appreciative in the sense that he never misses the smallest good that we do. So we are his servant, and he is our creator, and he is al-ghani wa nahnu al-fuqara, right? He is the rich and not in need, and we are the ones poor and in need, right? Always in need. But yet, any little good that we do, he sees it. And that's an quality of appreciation. When you appreciate something, you acknowledge it, you see it, and you want to return. You want to reward. Like when you're truly appreciative of the good that somebody does for you in your life, you don't just say thank you and that's it. Appreciative people, they have this sense of like, I want to return, like I want to give back to this person that did this, right? Now, of course, Allah is not in need of what we do for him, which even makes his appreciative quality even so much more like, it makes us in awe of it. But this is how, this is the quality that comes with appreciation, is that he never lets anything go in vain. And this is what he tells us in the Quran, that nothing we do ever goes in vain with Allah. He appreciates it. So he's the one that rewards the good deed with multiples of it. This is also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't just, give you equal to what you do. He always gives you more than what you do. And he always comes closer to you more than you come closer to him. So we know this from Hadith Qudsi, right? If my servant comes to me walking, I go to him running. My servant comes to me with an arm's length, a hand's length, I go to him by an arm's length, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a quality of appreciation. This is a quality of him being a shakur, is that he never will meet you the same distance as you go to him. He never will reward you just equal to what you do. He always, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us is always far more than what we deserve. This is why people always, they have this question of like, sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't make dua because I don't feel like I deserve it. And I always say, well, what did we do to deserve being created? to be known when we were non-existent? What did we do to deserve eyes? What did we do to deserve ears? What did we do to deserve, all the blessings that we were born having? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give us based on what we deserve. He gives based on who he is. And so for the smallest good deed that we do, he rewards us even in a far greater way than we deserve, subhanAllah. And this is the quality of appreciation, is that you don't minimize any good that is in your life. You don't minimize the good that people do to you. And this is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, those who do not thank the people do not thank Allah. So having appreciation towards the creation is actually a quality that's reflective of you appreciating Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because who created those people he put in your life. So we want to cultivate grateful hearts. We want to cultivate hearts that don't minimize the good that we see in this world, the good that Allah puts in front of us, the beauty that he has given us, the blessings. An appreciative heart is the heart that already sees its grass as green. It doesn't look to other people's grass and thinks it's greener than our own grass. An appreciative heart is awakened to the blessings that are in our life as it is, and the reality that exists in our life. So these are, that is what shukr is, right? And shukr includes like appreciation, but it's an expression of appreciation that's not just verbal, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he expressed his shukr, his appreciation, not just through words, not just through alhamdulillah, but through his actions. There's a hadith, right, where Aisha radiallahu anha, she saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam standing up in the middle of the night for prayer. And she asked him about this, this is someone who's guaranteed Jannah, So what was his response to Aisha radiallahu anha? He said, shouldn't I be a grateful servant? So here is someone who understands true shukr, true appreciation. He's already guaranteed Jannah, but he is enjoying the ibadah, and he's approaching ibadah out of shukr. out of being a servant that is appreciative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what he has blessed him with. And so basically, yes, I'm guaranteed Jannah, but shouldn't that make me even more appreciative? That's subhanAllah what an appreciative heart is. You don't become complacent. You're not comfortable with just taking. An appreciative heart is a heart that's always looking to really honor what was received. So if someone gives you something, Allah blesses you, how can I honor this? It's not just Alhamdulillah, thank you, Allah. No. Appreciation is you going out and you really cultivating this approach to life where I want to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holistically, not just verbally, but through my actions, that I truly, truly appreciate. I'm grateful, but I appreciate this blessing and I want to honor it. I want to honor it. I want to show Allah that I'm not taking it for granted. So when people say, like, for example, like when Allah blesses them with something and they don't use it, like, Allah gives you something, any blessing you can think of, and you don't utilize that blessing because you think that's what it means to be humble. You minimize it. Allah gives you a strength, a skill internally, or he gives you something externally. And you think that gratitude is just saying, Alhamdulillah, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. When someone compliments you, say it's nothing, it's nothing. And then you don't use it, you minimize it. And you don't really interact with it. That's not shukr, that's not gratitude. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah loves to see the effects of his blessing upon his servant. So Allah loves to see us utilize our blessings. And when you utilize something, you're honoring it. You're like, I'm grateful for this. I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to use it for good. So how do we honor something? Number one, we pay attention to it. We never ignore it, right? I see it, I acknowledge it, I appreciate it. But also, I'm connected to it. I'm connected to the role this thing has in my life. And I'm not going to look at it as something insignificant. But also, how do I honor it in front of Allah? I use that thing for good. Whatever Allah gives me, I want to look to how I can give back. Allah gives me a blessing, I want to give back. Allah gives me something that is, a skill internally, so that's a blessing too. Risk is not just external. The greatest risk is internal. Alhamdulillah, how can I utilize it? So it's really you paying attention to how you can't take things for granted. So I want to talk about, the power of cultivating a grateful heart and a heart that has shukr and a shukr mindset, a shukr heart set. This is also a concept that I discuss in my work, because we always focus on mindset, but we don't focus on setting the heart in the right direction. So really cultivating that internal frame or direction of shukr as well. But first, I want to go over a few verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions shukr. So in Surah An-Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, is then he who creates comparable to any that cannot create? Will you not then take heed? For should you try to count Allah's blessings, you could never compute them. So, and this is actually one of the amazing effects of shukr, is if you start, it's hard to stop. Once you cultivate a heart that is appreciative, it's very hard to stop noticing blessings. And this is what we want. They say that, like, and this is, you can experience this yourself, is that when you start, and I do this work with my students, and they'll say the same thing when they start working on building the muscle of gratitude daily in their lives, is that when they start, there's this feeling that, or there's this experience that when you start thanking Allah and you start paying attention to the blessings that He put in your life, you find yourself then thanking Him for the ability to be grateful. You find yourself thanking Him for the ability to be grateful. So you started off thanking Him, Alhamdulillah for my eyesight, Alhamdulillah for this, for that. But then in the end, you see what gratitude does to the heart, and you say, Alhamdulillah for this ability to be grateful. Thank you, Ya Allah, because you know that even that ability to be grateful is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's a guidance from Him. So we should always also, that's also shukr, is that you don't miss a thing. Not, of course, we're human, right? We're going to miss things, but you miss things less. So even something like this, you don't take for granted. Alhamdulillah, you did a sajda, alhamdulillah. Thank you, Allah, for allowing me to do that sajda. You felt so close to Allah. Alhamdulillah. You don't miss it. You don't take it for granted. You know that sajda is a gift. That it's not just external blessings that are gifts, it's internal blessings. It's the ability to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's a gift. So you're just paying attention to Allah and what He does in your life, on a much deeper level. And that's one of the greatest spiritual powers of shukr, is it awakens you to the one who is giving, Al-Wahhab, Al-Razzaq, the one who is Al-Fattah in your life, the one who is opening these doors for you, and you're paying attention to them. You're saying, I see that, Ya Allah, thank you. Thank you for the ability to worship you, for the ability to thank you, for the ability to notice my blessings. That's a gift. Like, there are people who, what's the, the opposite of, in the Quran, the opposite of shukr is kufr, like to deny. So it's so interesting, right? We said that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that those who do not thank the people, do not thank Allah, do not have shukr towards Allah. In the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, do basically be grateful to me and do not deny me, which is kufr, do not reject me. So it's so interesting that the opposite of shukr is you denying Allah's existence. Because when you are grateful for your blessings, you can't help but acknowledge the one who is the source of those blessings, right? So it really cultivates that iman. Also in Surah An-Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is He who brought you forth from the wombs of your mothers when you knew nothing. And He gave you hearing and sight and intelligence and affection so that you may give shukr, you may give gratitude, you may give thanks. And then in Surah Ibrahim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and remember when your Lord proclaimed, if you give thanks, I shall give you more, I shall increase you. And if you are thankless, verily, my punishment is indeed severe. So there's also a relationship here between thanking Allah and your blessings increasing. But it's interesting, a lot of times we apply this just to external blessings. Like, oh, I thank Allah for the external things I have, my house, my family, the things that I love externally, because I want Allah to give me more, because that's what He says in the Quran, right? Be grateful to me, I shall increase you. But a lot of times, people never think of this in terms of spiritual blessings, of inner risk, inner provisions. When you find that Allah expanded your heart, when you find that Allah opened your heart to give charity, as I mentioned earlier, when you find that Allah made your heart feel so close to Him in sajda, when He increased your iman, when He allowed you to get up for tahajjud, when you find yourself doing more istighfar, increasing in dhikr, do you thank Allah for those moments? Do you thank Allah for that provision? Because don't you want Allah to increase you? Because that's what He says in the Quran, be grateful to me, I shall increase you. So when ibadah is the most important and beautiful and greatest blessing of your life, you find yourself thanking Allah for the ability to worship Him, because you want Him to increase you in that ability. And you don't want to take that blessing for granted. You don't want to be, your greatest fear is to be disconnected from the one you love the most and the one who loves you the most. Right? So many verses in the Quran reminding us to cultivate shukr. So a grateful heart is a heart that sees Allah as the source and creator of everything we receive. And it's a heart that longs to show and express that appreciation to Him, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, whatever you have of a blessing, it is from Allah. And we forget this sometimes, right? We sometimes, especially in our world, we can attribute it to ourselves. Oh, I did this. And we forget, right? And we forget who allowed us to, who made it easy for us to do this, and who facilitated us, and who facilitated it for us, and who is the source of that. Now I want to focus on what are the mental and emotional benefits of cultivating a grateful heart, of in practicing shukr. So we need presence in our life. And one of the things that is really contributing to a lot of people being mentally scattered and emotionally heavy and feeling burdened and weighed down in their life is that they are not present. And they're everywhere but the here and now. So their mind is always in the future, in the past. They're worrying about tomorrow and what if this and what if that and what if this. And the antidote to that, and constantly being in the future And that anxiousness is bringing yourself back in the moment. I work extensively with students just on this skill, the building the muscle of being present. Why? Because the present is the most sacred space. And it's the space, the only space in which we can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why it's sacred. It's the only space that you can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't connect to Allah if you're off in the future, or you're off living in the past. You have to be in the here and now. So it's a sacred space, only space where you can actually have a nourishing connection with Allah, but also with yourself and also with those around you and your loved ones, right? So we need presence, especially in our times. Our attention spans are getting worse and worse, and people are feeling more scattered, and it's harder for people to focus. And so, but that's why people are not nourished, and they're going through the motions, and they may be doing a lot of things, good things, but they're not connected to it because they're not present with those things. So when they go to bed at night, they always feel like they're not enough. They're not doing enough. They don't feel fulfilled. But when I evaluate with them, all the things they're doing good things, but it's because that disconnect. We're not present. We're just going through the motions. So the relationship between presence and shukr is that to engage in shukr, you need to be present. And when you engage in shukr, you become more present. So it's a mutual relationship. So when you are grateful, what do you have to do? When you cultivate shukr in your life and you practice it daily, what do you have to do? You actually have to be in the here and now. You have to be in the moment. You have to bring this mind back to now. In my home method, I talk about the mind is the servant of the heart. So if you let your mind wander off to the future a lot or to the past, you deprive it of being the servant of the heart. A lot of times people treat their mind as the king. They follow, and their heart is the servant. But this heart is what we have to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with sound. So if you don't take care of this mind and where it takes you, this heart is left malnourished. This heart is left not in a sound state. So part of the work of shukr is also you training yourself to come back to the moment, to come back to the here and now. That telling yourself there's no more important moment than now. This is the only moment that is real. This is the only moment that is a reality in front of me. I don't know what the future holds, and the past has already passed. Just this muscle that we build of bringing ourselves back. You're in a conversation with someone and you bring yourself back. You're doing a task and you bring yourself back to the here and now. You're thinking about what you're going to do next. These little moments, it's not the big moments that transform us. Often it's the little moments where you force yourself to be present, and you really allow yourself to sit with the agitation, discomfort of being in the here and now and not jumping to the next moment. That really is so helpful to us mentally and emotionally. But that's what shukr requires. So when you start engaging in shukr, you have no choice but to start paying attention to what? You're present, because you can't be grateful for something that doesn't exist if you can't be grateful for something that hasn't happened yet, right? So it really does require you to be in the moment and think of what is actually real in my life, what is actually true, what has actually happened in my life, what are the actual blessings in my life. So you start paying attention. I tell people, just start with the obvious things. If you have a hard time with it, start with the most obvious things. Alhamdulillah for my eyesight, alhamdulillah for my hearing, alhamdulillah for my health, alhamdulillah for this, and just start. And then you'll find yourself, the heart opens and opens and opens to see more and more and more. So the powerful thing about shukr is that it actually helps us develop what we call an abundant mindset and not a scarcity mindset. So an abundant mindset is an approach in life where you approach life where you see more, meaning that you don't, like, the opposite is it's called scarcity mindset, but I like to call it poverty mindset as well, because where you always feel like you see less all the time. It's that concept of the grass is always greener on the other side. So when you actually start engaging in shukr, you start developing this mindset of, oh, I see more. I see more blessings. You actually start to see more blessings in your life. Not necessarily new ones, but actually things that were already existing, but you weren't connected to them. And now through shukr, you're like, whoa, I see all these things and they're part of my life and they've always been there, or they're there now. And it's, alhamdulillah. So a lot of people with the scarcity mindset, the poverty mindset, is that they basically always feel like it's never enough. What they have is never enough. And it leads to a lot of lack of fulfillment where, you know, you just feel like there's not enough for you. And part of that, again, goes back to denying Allah's existence or Allah's role in your life. Because, you know, when, for example, you go out into the world and you're not grateful and you're not appreciative and you always feel like there's not enough for you and it's never enough. And, you know, when you see the blessings of others, you constrict because you think, oh, they took away something from you. That's denying Allah's role, because you're looking at the creation, you're not seeing the source of the one who gave. So when you have shukr, you see Allah as the source of everything. So even when you witness the blessings of others, your physical eye is looking at the creation and their blessing, but the eye of your heart is on Allah and the one who blessed that person and the one that could easily bless you, right? And this is what we learn from the story of Zakaria alayhi salam. What did he do? He was praying for an heir, a child, for so long, right? And he was in his old age. And what did he do when he saw Maryam being blessed in such an immense way? What does it say? In the Quran, it says, right there, Da Zakaria, Rabbi habli min ladunka dhurriyatan tayyibatan innaka sami'ud du'a. Right there, right as he witnessed Maryam's immense blessings, he'd go in and he'd see that she has all this abundance. What did he see in that moment? His physical eye is witnessing the blessings of Maryam alayhi salam, but the eye of his heart is attached to the one who just gave Maryam alayhi salam and can easily give him. So in the Quran, Allah says, right there, Zakaria prayed and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him, you know, righteous or good, you know, children. So subhanallah, that's what a grateful mindset is that you see the source of everything as to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it cultivates this mindset of you always feel like there's enough for you because you're dealing with the one who has an infinite supply of what he gives others and what he can give you. And that's an empowering feeling. We don't want to go into this world with a poverty mindset, with a scarcity mindset, where we just feel like, oh, there's not enough for us. It's never enough. This leads to jealousy. This leads to the constriction of the heart. This leads to a very, you know, resentful space within. And this affects people all the time, mentally, emotionally. Whenever we forget who is the source of our blessings, whenever we do not embody shukr in our life, we will always struggle. But the immense power of shukr essentially is that it brings you to the present and it allows you to see more in your life than less. And when you see more in your life, you're awakened to do more. It empowers you because you are connected to what already exists. And a lot of times people struggle mentally and emotionally because they're more attached to the illusion of what could be rather than what actually is existing. So in psychology, we have different approaches. In Western psychology, we have different approaches to, you know, there are different branches that approach struggle through different lens. And one of the branches of psychology that we look at is existential psychology, that basically looks at struggles through that lens of existence and the lens of purpose. And it says something really phenomenal, which is that depression, so this is its understanding of depression, and it says depression is in the gap between where you actually are and where you think you should be. I'm going to say that again. So it says depression and sadness and you feeling stuck in life, basically on a mental and emotional level, is when you place yourself in this gap between where you actually are, your present, and where you think you should be. So what does that mean? You have a present in life, right? Where Allah has actually placed you. So a lot of times what happens to people is when they go through difficulty and when they go through struggles in life and they feel pain because it's a test, they're going through a test, and a test wouldn't be a test without pain. It wouldn't be called a test. People try to escape. So they try to escape that present. And they say, this present has nothing to offer me. Let me get out of here. So they escape mentally, emotionally. So they attach themselves to what? a future place and time where they think they'll be happy. So, they take their happiness essentially and they place it in a time and place that has not yet existed, and they attach it to certain conditions. I will be happy when this happens, when that happens, when this thing is removed and from my life, from the stress, the stress is removed from my life, whatever is the source of the pain. And then they're not enjoying their present because they deem it as something that has nothing to offer them. It only brings pain. And they're not in the future because that time and place has not existed yet. So they're stuck in what existential psychology says is this gap. And this gap is where people suffer because they're not allowing themselves to actually be in the reality that exists, which is the present, that holds blessings for them, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never just tests a person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just, He's the most balanced, He's the most merciful. You will never find Him just placing tests and no hardship and no ease in a person's life. In the Quran, it says, Inna ma'al usri yusra, right? It's not after hardship comes ease, it's with hardship is ease, right? So never Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even people you see with them with the worst struggles, Allah gives them these moments of ease. Someone comes in and helps, someone comes in and aids, so but when you deem your present as unlivable and has nothing to offer you because you're going through a struggle and you feel pain, you cut yourself off from what it has to offer you, because even tests and pain have something to offer us. And when you cultivate a grateful heart, when you cultivate a heart that has shukr, you actually start to ask different questions when you're tested. You actually look at tests so differently. You say, what is Allah teaching me? Because I know who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with the most loving, the most merciful, the one who plans in my favor. Yes, I'm in pain, but that's only because I'm going through something that is hard, right? And it is a test. But through the tests, Allah always is giving. See, that's the thing. When you have a heart that sees Allah as the source of all goodness for you, you know that even through the test, Allah is giving. He is not just like, even if He's withholding something from you, you're asking Allah for something and a door is closed and He's withholding, He's still Al-Fattah. So Allah is still Al-Fattah when He closes doors. Why? Because He opens this door, which is so much greater. The door of your heart to see Him, to see His blessings. But that's what a grateful heart is you're looking, you're searching. Where's Allah's love? Where's Allah's mercy? What is He doing for me? Because I know my Creator. I know who Allah is. And this is why it's so important to learn Allah's attributes and names and to really get to know who He is, because you cultivate a heart that really is looking for that goodness. And whenever you look for Allah's love and whenever you look for His goodness and what He's doing for you, you will always find it. Rabia al-Adawiyya rahimallah, she says, I search for His love everywhere and then suddenly I am filled with it. So you'll never go having that good opinion of Allah, having that grateful heart, appreciative, of what He does for you in your life, even when you don't understand it, even when you can't. It's so beautiful to be going through a test, even though it's painful, even though it's difficult, and you say, Alhamdulillah, I know, Ya Allah, that no one's going to love me more than you, and no one's going to have mercy towards me more than you. So Alhamdulillah, even though you don't see it with your physical eye, but the eye of your heart is on the one who loves you the most, and the one plans in your favor, even when you don't see it. That's what a grateful heart is. It's like when you go to, we love to see a sunset, right? And sometimes you go see the sunset and there's clouds covering it. But is the fact that you can't see the sun setting make you think that it's not setting? No. I can't see it with my physical eye, but I know that the sun is setting. That's the kind of, trust we should have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I know what He's doing for me behind the veil. And I know that even if I can't see His plan and I can't see what He's doing for me with my physical eye, I know that He's working in my favor and He's planning in my favor. So shukr has these tremendous effects. It allows us to be more present. which helps us declutter mentally. It helps us be more connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to ourselves and what comes up for us, and to the people around us that deserve our attention. But it also helps us develop this abundant mindset where we go out into the world, you know, open-hearted and seeing more of his blessings. This expands the heart. It allows you to feel like, you know, that it allows you to not feel that constriction and that tightness where a lot of people are feeling that, you know, and a lot of people are feeling that these days because especially when they're not working on themselves, you know, so it really does expand your perspective. But it also allows you to interact with your tests and your struggles in a different way, and it allows you to build that resilience as well. So I know, I want to give time for questions before Maghrib. So I'll pause here and I'll take any questions you guys have.
No, Jazakallah khair, Sister Marwa. And that's really interesting, some of the points that you brought up. So I'll open it up to everybody if they have any questions. But maybe I can start. You know, I really liked your point of, you know, being in the moment. Because clearly, you know, that's a very important perspective. But what about if your mind, you know, just through your own intellect and knowledge is able to see a peril in the future, and you know that is affecting you because you can kind of predict that this is going to happen? How would you prepare, or what would you say? Should you continue to be in the moment, say forget about the future, I need to be here, I don't care if that happens or something better will happen? How would you prepare for that peril that you see in the future?
Yeah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to think and the ability to perceive and the ability to think of possible scenarios, right? This is like something that he gave us, and it's part of our aql, and it's part of our intellectual and cognitive capacity to think of situations, right? And this is a skill and I mean a strength because it allows us to prepare. So when we're saying cultivate a grateful heart, it's not in separation of you doing your part. It's you tying your camel and doing your part, but also being grateful and being in the moment. Because even when you're preparing for the future, you have to be in the moment. Why? Because yes, you go and you think you're thinking of the future, but you're not living in that place. You're still in this present, preparing, utilizing your resources in the here and now to prepare yourself for the future. When I say being in the future, I'm talking about when you sit and you're so attached to all the what if scenarios and you let that take you, you let that lead you, that you forget what your obligations are. You delay your prayers. You know, there's a reason why in sujood we humble this, right? This in psychology is the frontal lobe, and this is the part of the brain, this most forefront of the brain. We call it the prefrontal cortex. And this is the part that's the most advanced part of the brain. And it's the part that leads us to abstract thinking and advanced thinking and separates us from human beings. And it is what allows us to plan, subhanAllah. Like it's something that Allah gave us. So yes, use it, but remember, it's designed to be humbled in sujood, right? And this is why in sujood we humble it. One of the things that I mentioned in my home method, and was one of the signs that really solidified the home method for me when I was developing it, was sujood, was reflecting on sujood and realizing, it was a big epiphany for me on my path to developing the heart over mind and ego method, which is that in sujood, I humble this mind, but what is higher when you're in sujood? The heart, right? So even in sujood, Allah's showing us that like use this, but remember to keep this attached to me. And remember that this is higher. So don't let this make you forget the truths, which is Allah's in control. So there's that concept of tie your camel, prepare, but there's balance. We are an ummah of tawazun and balance. And this is, I think, what people forget. It's my concern is not somebody preparing for the future. My concern was that someone doesn't have balance. They're so caught up in future, future, future that they neglect to see what's in the present. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Yeah, thank you. So there's a question in the chat there that perhaps you can look at about ambition and
yes, I'm getting it right, looking at it right now. What is the relationship between gratitude and ambition? Sometimes dissatisfaction drives one to achieve on, there's something covering it. To achieve difficult things, how can we achieve a balance? So again, like they're not mutually exclusive. You can be ambitious while being grateful. Ambition actually requires gratitude, by the way. For you to be ambitious, you have to see Allah's blessings and resources that you're going to utilize. Now, ambition without gratitude is you thinking that it's you, right? Ambition that is harmful and one that is void of gratitude is when you forget who is the source of your ambition, who is the source of what's helping you, achieve all of these amazing things. That's when it becomes a problem, is when you become the destination, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think this is where a lot of people are this is a trap that a lot of people are falling into, is that they get in this drive of ambition, and they like become so ambitious, but they forget to cultivate gratitude alongside it, which is, I see the one who's helping me, and I see the one who's with me. Allah loves those who help themselves, and Allah loves those who strive and put in effort. But number one, where's your intention? Ambition without the right intention is fruitless, and ambition without gratitude and acknowledging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings and help and resources that you're using to be ambitious and to strive towards your goal is also fruitless.
What a great talk, mashallah. Thank you so much for sharing these amazing, very deep, sort of thought-provoking ideas. I often struggle with this whole notion that, especially dealing with, mentoring the youngsters. I guess I'm still young, but the people younger than me, and a lot of them get stuck in the what, and I'm always trying to tell them about the why. The why is so much greater and so much more important than the what. But we live in such a materialistic society, and it's so, it's so such an everyday affair and transactional that we don't rise to the level of thinking that you're getting at here. And so, as I think about Shukr, you really are thinking about the why and the how, and not the what. It gets you out of the panic of the what and gets you to think bigger. I love your idea of, sort of resourceful thinking versus, poverty-stricken thinking. Can you say a little bit more about the what and the why, and how, current generations are so focused on the what and transactions rather than the why, and how Shukr kind of ties into the why?
I think what would help me is a specific example, because can you give me an example of what the what would be and the why? Because I'm not sure I understand.
Well, like, let's say I'm recruiting faculty, and it's in medicine. I'm trying to, have them think big. Why do they want to do what they want to do versus the what? And everyone's interested in, what they get paid and what their work schedule look like and what the call schedule look like, and all that good stuff.
Oh, I got you.
And I can tell you that in most disciplines now we're seeing a lot of burnout.
Yeah, because
But
they're detached from the why.
yeah, and if you the moment you're grateful for what you're doing and you're excited about it, and you're not in that scarce thinking mode, and the why comes up, the mission is almost the antidote to burnout.
Right.
So it's almost like being grateful, being in a state of shukr, in that mindset, gets you so close to the why that you forget about the what, and suddenly the world is your oyster. But if you're stuck in the what, you're done.
Literally living in scarcity. Absolutely. I understand what you mean now. And it is true. I think people are so disconnected from purpose, like what's driving. I see this all the time, people, when they come and ask questions about their career choices, right? They'll say, what degree should I get? What, like,
exactly. You're right.
But it's like, that's the wrong question. Degree is not your goal. It's how do I want to serve in the world? How do I want Allah to utilize me? And then the degree and the means and the path starts to show itself, and I always give them the example, even in my own work, when I first started my work, it was at a time where I never heard someone say Islamic psychology, or I even knew a Muslim therapist, right? But I just knew, like, this is how I wanted to serve. I wanted to help empower people, mentally, emotionally, through an Islamic perspective. And then the path starts to reveal itself. And Rumi, he says this, right? He says that the path reveals itself when you start walking, right? And I think this generation and this times that we live in, where we're over obsessed with information, I need to know. We're so uncomfortable with uncertainty, right? We think that we have to attach to things and specific, positions and places, and in order for us to feel secure, rather than actually internally getting our security from the why, from our intention, and from our purpose. And they did research on this, like people who live connected to their purpose. And we're not even talking about existential purpose, which is a great blessing that we have as Muslims, right? Like the why we're even alive. They're just talking about like people who are connected to their purpose, like why they're doing something, why they're pursuing a career, right? They say that these people are doing better mentally, emotionally, because they're connected to their purpose. And I think nowadays people are just connected to things, and they're not really asking, they're disconnected from their intentions. What is the truth in the heart that's driving my actions? What am I actually seeking? Like what's the end goal? How do I want to serve? Meaning, which is really essentially what we're talking about, is meaning, right? Like you connected to meaning. And how do I want to serve in this world? How do I want Allah to utilize me? I swear when you approach your life like that, the details might change and you might actually realize, oh, like I don't need this degree. I might not even need a degree, or I might need this, or I might not need that, but you're like, that's okay, because it's allowing me to, whatever is allowing me to fulfill my goal, right? Whereas when you're stuck to the what's, like you mentioned, those examples, which are great, you get fixated on those. So if one aspect changes, you become miserable and you forget why you even are doing this work. And we see this also in the Muslim community, right? People doing work for the sake of Allah with a disconnect from why they're doing it. Like doing good work in the community, disconnect from why they're doing it. So if one thing falls apart, the what, they can abandon it because they forget the why. I hope that answers your question.
It does, but say a little more, because I mean, you're still going to explain this. Say a little more about how Shukr gets us the why, because it's also the prefrontal cortex, and it's like this weird state of being in such a great state of Shukr that you are connected to the why,
Well,
like the gratitude.
so,
Hello.
so yes.
Faisal bhai, I think this topic that you are discussing, to me, it sounds like a very abstract discussion of an abstract topic. You're talking about issues, but it's not very clear. I think it would be, maybe what we should do is in another session with you, take some specific concrete examples and then talk about those examples and the philosophical argument that you're presenting. Because the way you're presenting it, it's coming across as very abstract. It's not very, very clear as to.
Well, I just want to touch upon, I think what he's trying to say is that, like, how can Shukr allow someone to focus on the purpose and the why? And I just want to say to that is that, like, when you cultivate, they both go hand in hand. When you live with purpose, you become more grateful. And when you are more grateful, you are more connected to the purpose. How is Allah using me? So it's something that's experiential. You have to practice to experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. I think what the other brother Malik is saying, Malik Saab, maybe if you have a concrete example to help them. But working in medicine, I've got a very good idea of what Abrar was saying. But perhaps, Sister Marwa, if you have a specific example in your everyday NYU, whatever, about what we're talking about, maybe you can give that. And then I have a question before we close, inshallah. So is there an example that you can give us, a concrete example that might help this sink in with people who are listening?
An example of what?
Or, for example, what you were discussing with Dr. Abrar, of when you can see the purpose of what you're doing, then the fulfillment and the thankfulness is there, as opposed to when you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, or for the sake of some other material reward, such as I'm getting paid for this, so I have to get through it, without the external purpose. I don't know if you have a concrete example you can give us.
Yeah, the concrete example I gave was community work and people in the community. And when you go to the masjid and you go work for the sake of Allah and you say you're doing work and then something factor is not there that you were hoping to receive, and you're fixated on these things that have to be there for you to do this work, as opposed to the why behind why you're doing this work, you know, it allows people to abandon their work. So this can be applied to so many different things. Like, you know, a lot of times we get fixated on, we're walking a path, we get fixated on, you know, what's going to happen. What's going to happen? It's that lack of, you know, we can't, we're uncomfortable with being uncertain. So we need to know all the details, you know, rather than trusting that the thing that I need to be sure of is what is my intention, and I need to be present so that I could utilize the resources that Allah has given me. And that as long as my intention is clear, Allah reveals the path. So you could take this, you could apply this to career, to work that you're embarking on, to your relationships, is that, are you doing your part? And are you also paying attention to where you are? And are you more connected to your purpose and intentions, or are you more connected to what needs to happen for you on the path for you to feel good? There's a difference.
Yeah, got it. Great. So, the question that I would like to ask you, which is kind of interesting, is that, you know, with your background and having studied this, what's kind of interesting to me, and I don't know if you can speak to this, is how, you know, the history of Islam has actually always encouraged kind of treatment or wellness in terms of mental health. You know, for example, you know, in the past, in other faiths, if you became depressed or you were having issues with mental health, it meant that there was a failure in your connection with God. But in Islam, it's always looked at like, you know, when somebody is sick and you go to visit them, for example, from that hadith, you find that God is there with them. I don't know if you're aware of that hadith. So my understanding was that regardless of the illness, Allah has always created a cure, and that mental health was incorporated in this thing, which was somewhat unique to Islam. I don't know if you can speak to that. I don't know if you have a history or background in that you could perhaps speak to this.
So historically, we know that, you know, the way that mental health was approached historically was actually more healthier within the Islamic world. So pre-Renaissance, before the European Renaissance happened, actually it was Islamic scholars like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina who contributed a more healthy perspective of mental health to the European Christian world. At that time, the European Christian world would define mental health issues as demonic. And it was Islamic scholars that actually incorporated or offered them a healthier approach or a healthier understanding of looking at mental health, that it's not demonic, and that struggles and tests basically come in different forms. Allah could test a person with their physical health. Allah could test a person with their mental health. The mind is part of the body too. You know, Allah could test a person with their emotional health. Allah could test a person in any aspect we are given. We could be tested in it. You know, people could be tested with their aql. People could be tested with their memory. People could be tested with their any kind of well-being. And this is why we should incorporate. This is why we're taught to ask for well-being and afia, right, in our health and in our bodies, and, you know, in our sight and in our hearing. Why do we say that dua in the morning? Allahumma afini fi badani, Allahumma afini fi sam'i, Allahumma afini fi basari, right? We say this in the morning dhikr and the evening dhikr. Why? Because we want well-being in all of these aspects that Allah has given us. So absolutely, Islam, and throughout the Quran and throughout the Seerah, you see how, you know, like, you know, Yaqub alayhi salam, you know, the grief that he went through, and to the point where he cried so much that he went blind. You know, I think it's people, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that judge people or try to give an unhealthy framework of mental health. But anything that Allah has given us as Muslims, we should always look at it that anybody could be tested. And when we see people who are struggling with their mental health, you know, if you find yourself judging, you know, anyone who, like, and this happens in the Muslim community, people judging people for struggling with their mental health, you know, evaluate, you know, this, like, we should look at it as, alhamdulillah, that Allah's not testing me like they are being tested, you know, just as when we see someone with physical illness or physical ailments, what do we say? we say, Alhamdulillah, alladhi afana. We thank Allah to the, for the one who has basically, saved us from what he has tested others or has afflicted others with, right? So there's this understanding that, we shouldn't do causation with people's issues. Even people do this with people's struggles. Like they'll say, oh, you're going through this test, it means Allah's punishing you. People do this with people's mental health symptoms. So absolutely, in Islam, there's always historically been this healthier approach to mental health, that it's something to expect. And by the way, everybody has mental health. This is something to also be aware of. Everybody has mental health, just as everybody has physical health. You don't just have mental health when you are tested with your mental health. Just as you don't just have physical health when you are afflicted with a physical disease. We have to maintain the health of all these different aspects of us, even before we are tested. So we all have mental health we need to take care of. We have emotional health because we have emotions. We have physical health because we have a body. We have, psychological health because we have psychological facets that we need to take care of.
Yes, wonderful. Jazakallah khair. Wonderful. So is there any other question that somebody has? And otherwise, inshallah, we'll close. Thank you so much, Dr. Assar, in the meantime.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sister. Your presentation was wonderful, but there's a lot that needs to be talked about, that we can use the ideas that you have presented, use those ideas to look at and analyze how we take care of our day-to-day life. Let's suppose I'm an engineer. I'm working on a project, designing something. Or how does all of these things that we talked about earlier help me, or should help me, in that kind of routine work, which is not something very philosophical. It's just routine life, day-to-day work, earning my livelihood. How does my dependence on the kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help me in living my routine day-to-day life, dealing with my children, dealing with my people with whom I work in a company or in any other group, people who are my relatives, my immediate relatives, my parents, my wife, my husband. So I think at some point, maybe we should talk about these kind of concrete issues that people have to deal with day-to-day basis, while keeping in mind the overall framework that you have presented of how Allah Ta'ala's kindness is always there with us. We can always rely on that to do our work. I don't know if this is explained this enough. Maybe next time when we get a chance to talk, we could talk more about this in a more concrete fashion rather than in a more abstract way.
I do just want to refer back to some of the concrete examples that I gave about being in the moment and making sure that when you are in a task, in a conversation, and whenever you are finding yourself in day-to-day things. So earlier I had mentioned that it's those moments, the little moments where you're in a conversation and you're finding yourself drifting off. It's bringing yourself back and being present with the person. It's you taking the time to actually start with the obvious things. These are practices and examples that you can actually start applying today in your day-to-day life. So those are just some, it's really, we all have to take personal responsibility in reflecting on our day and the moments in which we allow ourselves to be distracted and how we can bring ourselves back. It could be the simplest of tasks. You're in prayer. Are you present? Because if you're not present in prayer, you're probably not going to be present outside of prayer. And if you're not present outside of prayer, you're probably going to have a hard time being present inside of prayer. So I really encourage everyone to maybe reflect on these things and how they can improve in their shukr in these little moments, whether you're doing a task, whether you're in a conversation with someone, whether you're about to go pray, whether you're taking time out in your day, 5 minutes to do a gratitude check and just thank Allah. I mean, after every prayer, we're taught to say Alhamdulillah 33 times. How many of us really take the time to sit and actually reflect on what we're grateful for? So I hope, inshallah, it was beneficial.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that's actually a wonderful way to look at it. Jazakallah khair. As you can see, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
I think we've done 1 hour without even realizing it. Alhamdulillah. Maybe, inshallah, if you're ever in this area, clearly there's a demand for you to come and speak to us, maybe at another extended session
More
with
than
BI
that,
or
inshallah.
anything. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, it would be my
Where are
pleasure.
you from?
Hmm?
Which area are you from?
In New Jersey, she just told
I'm
us.
from New Jersey, yeah. Yeah, not too far.
Not too far at all.
No. We can all make use of a Zoom.
Yes, inshallah. Well, inshallah, maybe in the future, I'll because I work for Boston Islamic Seminary as well, and might be doing a book, a discussion on my book in the near future, inshallah. So hope maybe I can visit your community as well, inshallah.
Inshallah, I think you would like that, and you may. It's good as well. So Jazakallah khair.
Keep us informed whenever you are in this area, because I think we can all benefit from your insights and your knowledge and the way you presented the whole thing.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve. And if I said anything good, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I said anything, that was not good, please forgive me. And inshallah, I hope to be of service again, inshallah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair again to everybody for attending. We'll be advertising the next session, which will, I think, be on 6/12, but we'll let you know via email very, very soon. And BIS will also be doing one of our khutbahs as well. So we'll keep everybody informed. So Jazakallah khair again for joining. And when you hear of one of these seminar series, please spread the word. You can see they're really beneficial. We learn a lot from each other, and spread the news as well. So Jazakallah khair. Again, to everybody for attending, and especially to you, Sister Marwa. May Allah increase you and increase your knowledge, and may He make your book successful and make us benefit from your knowledge too. Inshallah. I mean, yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. All right.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.